rescue op. Save the dinosaurs from an island that's about to explode. What could go wrong?
Hello, welcome to Fallen Kingdom. We'll return to Jurassic World 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And in this episode, we're discussing minute 45 of Fallen Kingdom. Before we get to that, David, heading over to Wikipedia for just a brief second, we got the article up here for the Pyroclastic flow. I've seen it a couple of times in movies. Normally, like Fallen Kingdom, it doesn't travel anywhere near as fast as it should be. Just keep these sort of speeds in your mind for when we do this minute. Average speeds of 100 kilometers or 30 meters a second, but capable of reaching 700 kilometers or 190 meters a second, which 100 kilometers, you're probably looking at 55 miles an hour on the low side, and 700, well, you're probably looking at 450 mile an hour. 500 mile an hour. So we'll have a look at how Owen's jogging later in this minute and see if he's at a capable speed to outrun this flow.
Can't you stop these things? I'm sorry, it's kind of a ride.
Dave, ready to get into minute 45?
I am.
All right, minute 45. Fallen Kingdom opens with allosaurus running alongside the gyrosphere, and then there's small lava bombs impacting a sinking hamster ball. As we ended minute 44, the volcano had let loose, spewing lava and ash into the air, causing the remaining animals in the valley to stampede towards the ocean, along with the powerless gyrosphere, which was rolling down the valley. As we open on minute 45, the allosaurus running alongside the gyrosphere looks at Claire and roars, and we're about to lose this allosaurus. I think we've shit on design pretty much over the last few minutes. I will be interested to see when we do get to Lockwood Manor with a bit of unnatural lighting, like lighting on it, whether the colours do change or not, because here it's just a grey mess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I also think it kind of sucks that the view isn't that bad. Like the side view of it, honestly, it could be better, but it's not bad. It's from other angles, like the side and the front, where it looks weird. Like we get a shot here from inside the gyrosphere of the allosaurus kind of growling at Claire, and the nose just looks so stubby and weird. But earlier, when we see it running up to the gyrosphere, we can see see a view with its head down, and the head looks thin. But here it doesn't. It's just really weird.
Yeah, and you can't really say it's distortion from the bubble either, because guests are meant to take photos from this thing in amongst the animals and that, and we haven't seen any distortion in the past, so yeah.
And even interestingly, we got part of the shot in the trailer, and I remember the shot here with the head down. The allosaurus is, like I said, the skull was thin. It was actually mistaken for Suchomimus at first. You could, just because it's not really shown in Jurassic Park too much, but theropod skulls are actually very thin. They're almost, I wouldn't say pencil thin compared to the rest of the skull, but they have a very kind of thin profile looking from the top down. And the Jurassic Park dinosaurs have a tendency to be much thicker faced.
So I understand that if they're going to have to pack animatronics and stuff inside them, for all the sort of like the air sacs in the nostril cavity and that, to make them sort of puff in and out when they breathe, and the snarling, the chin, the cheeks sort of moving, that sort of thing. I understand that, but when you've got an animal here that's just a CG model, no live action puppet or anything built for it, why can't you go that more natural, thinner finner design. Interesting you bring up the trailer here too, because I'm 100% certain. I'm watching the Apple TV version of Fallen Kingdom here. I thought this lava bomb hit the allosaur in the head. I thought I've seen before. No,
I thought it did too.
Yeah, well, here it impacts the ground between it and the gyrosphere, which forces it sideways and it rolls, which it still rolls out of the way anyway. But when I was doing the notes for this minute, I was watching it, and that impacted the ground. It didn't even hit its head. I don't know if that's something that's been changed after release or normally
I'd have to watch the trailer again.
Yeah, because I swear I've seen it get hit in the head before. Normally they just cut stuff here and there between different releases. They don't actually change a shot, change CG or something. I just thought, yeah, it was weird because this poor allosaurus, whether it impacted the ground beside or hit it in the head, it goes tumbling to the side, and we only get a brief shot of it laying there, but it doesn't seem to lift its head or anything. I think it's it's no longer in the land of living after this impact.
Poor allosaurus.
Yeah. We're there to save him.
He didn't deserve to die.
No. Then we get a Pteranodon swoop down towards the gyrosphere, acting purely as a transition from the front of the hamster ball to the back, as it's getting closer to that coast, and you can see sort of the ocean in the distance, and then we get a cut to that cliff face at the ocean side. Probably one of the better shots here. I do love just all the animals standing here, not sort of knowing what to do. This pyroclastic cloud coming towards them, stay and get boiled, or leap to. For some of them, they're deaf anyway because they probably aren't the best at swimming. Well, there's not much of a coast here to be able to get out of the water once they've gone into the water.
Mm-hmm. No, it's kind of just a sheer drop off of the cliff.
Yeah. The novelization says it's 200 feet. So
I can believe that.
Yeah, looking at the size, you got a sauropod there, even the Triceratops, and that's standing on the cliff edge. You sort of start stacking them one on top of the other, and yeah, it's a decent fall. And even when the gyrosphere goes over too, just a reaction. It's not just a roll down the beach. But meanwhile, the gyrosphere has also made it to the cliff's edge, and Claire looks back to see Owen disappearing into the ash cloud as it envelops him and eventually them as well, just before the cliff's edge. Now, like you mentioned a couple of minutes before, fan theories, whatever else, about this not actually being a pyroclastic flow and being something a bit more just like a dust cloud erupting out from the volcano to justify Owen still having skin and clothes on when he ends up in the water.
Basically, I don't know if it was Trevorrow who confirmed it, but basically this is supposed to be just a debris cloud from when the crater collapsed. It's not the actual pyroclastic flow itself.
Mm.
So
well, to help support
it kind of
that,
feels more like they're just kind of retconning it themselves.
Well, we know how much he loves to do that. And in hindsight too, we don't actually see it pushing trees over or flattening animals. We don't see behind it or anything. So, okay. I think the more unbelievable thing here is the fact that Alan's ran all the way down this valley early when the volcano erupted, miles from the coast. And now he's still in the same spot here, just behind the gyrosphere, as the ground drops away from beneath them and gyrosphere sort of drops down towards the ocean. Inside, we get a real reaction from Claire and Franklin. Many wouldn't remember back when the behind-the-scenes stuff was coming out. The rig they built off a couple of shipping containers, sort of a roller coaster thing with the bottom of the gyrosphere attached to it, that they strapped these two in and pushed them off down a controlled fall, of course, but getting this very real reaction for a couple 100-foot drop in, and especially when you're in this heavy hamster ball too, you'd be falling a lot quicker than if you just jumped out in the open.
And if I recall, it actually did land into a pool. It was like basically a water slide without water. You just get dumped in the pool.
Well, it's the best way to slow you down. So, I'll post some photos up on the socials if I remember. But yeah, again, just real sort of stuff. They did put a green screen behind it when they were doing it as well, because obviously you couldn't see the cloud and the cliff face disappearing behind them. But getting real reactions here, they could have just had them in there and say, right, act as if you're falling, and the comedic facial expressions and that you would have got from that, of them just trying to act as if they're falling.
I will say, though, that in defense of the pyroclastic flow comments, when the ball is going over the cliff, you can see lava flow also going over that cliff. And if you look at the base of the cloud, like, there's sparks coming out of this smoke. And looking at a 4K shot of Owen getting swallowed up here, there's like sparks flying all around him. So
yeah, and at the end of the minute, when we get these lava bombs start to fall from the sky on top of it too, when we do get the view up at the sky, you can see lava coming over the cliff's edge as well. So any of those animals that are up on top of that cliff, if they didn't jump, there'd be an evil stench in the air about this time. And then we get another great underwater shot as well, when that hamster plunges into the ocean, and sort of we get the music completely cut out and sort of those underwater sounds, much like we had with I was going to say Zia, but not the mosasaur sequence in Jurassic World. Naughty Nanny. What was her name? Yeah. we're fans.
Zara.
The other Z one.
I knew it had a Z. I couldn't remember. I couldn't want to say Zia. I'm like, no, not Zia. Zara.
Yeah. Well, it sort of mirrors the Zara sequence from Jurassic World, where when she's dropped underwater, you sort of lose all that sound, just the underwater. The sound.
You get the muffled kind of swirling sounds that you get.
Yeah. And we do see some of the animals here in the water. They've obviously jumped in alongside the gyrosphere. Luckily, none have jumped in on top of it, forcing it down further. But again, just this is a death sentence for a lot of these animals. We see our human characters find a nice beach later on to swim ashore at, but this rocky coast, I thought the weather may have been a bit rougher. I know the volcano going off would set off some seismic activity and maybe some rougher swell, but it's pretty calm here, the water. It's only sort of very small swell next to the gyrosphere anyway. But
I think it's kind of sad, though, that, I mean, the Sinoceratops here immediately starts trying to swim away, and it just starts sinking. Like,
yeah, well,
it's going to drown.
Yeah, that's if seeing animals in the water around the gyrosphere as it's sort of starting to float back to the surface didn't clue you into what was going to happen to these animals. Just that shot of that animal, it basically just its head above the water as it's trying to paddle away from the lava and the cliff. And before we drop back underwater again with the gyrosphere, it looks like it's almost low enough in the water to take a gulp of water in its mouth, which is I know a lot of people comment on the brachiosaur at the dock, but I reckon this is just as impactful, seeing these animals here trying to swim. And fair enough, the park's been closed for so long, but back when Jurassic World was operating, I know in Jurassic Park we see the brachiosaurs and that herd come out of the lagoon, but having your expensive animals go into a water that they can't stand up in or deep, that's even in the novel, the whole thing about the Rex worrying about the Rex drowning after it's hit by the trank. If your animals water's too deep for the animals to be able to swim competently in, you're probably limited how deep of water you let your herbivores go to, or carnivores. It's there to drink. That's about it, or bathe maybe. But inside the gyrosphere, we can hear Claire say we need to get out of here, and Franklin's just repeating, "We're alive, we're alive," which may be a little bit premature. But the severity of the situation comes to them quickly as water begins to squirt in around that door seal, and it's starting to build up around their feet. And as the minute ends, Claire looks up to see the water getting close to covering the entire gyrosphere. And from above, small lava bombs begin to impact the hamster ball, and we'll see what damage they do to it next minute. Dave, anything else on that before we get into the novel comparisons?
No, I think we're good.
All right. It said the gyrosphere rocketed off the edge of the cliff and fell 200 feet as Claire and Franklin cling to each other, screaming as they hurtled towards the crashing waves below. So it almost seems like a Team Rocket moment in that where they're if they can cling together, they're not strapped into their harnesses, which at least in the movie they are strapped in. So that sudden impact of that ball hitting the water isn't going to do as much damage as what it could have been if they were just sitting in that ball without being restrained.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the rest pretty much happens just like in the film. There's not a lot of real detail here in novelisation. It just all seems to move along pretty quickly. So that's been minute 45. Dave, how about we get out of here for the week?
All right, sounds good.
All right, lovely.